Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. I never loved you, Emma. You were just convenient until I could get back what was really mine. Those words, spoken in Daniel's voice, hit Emma Carter like a physical blow as she stood frozen outside their bedroom door. She had come home early from her doctor's appointment, excited to share the news that their baby was a healthy girl, only to hear her husband of 8 months talking on the phone with someone else. "Lila, darling, you know you're the only woman I've ever truly loved," Daniel continued, his voice tender in a way it had never been with Emma. "This situation with Emma is temporary. Once the baby is born and I figure out her financial situation, we can finally be together properly. You and Mason deserve so much better than these stolen moments." Emma's hand instinctively moved to her 6-month pregnant belly, her pulse racing so intensely she thought it might wake the baby. Mason? Who was Mason? And Lila, wasn't that the name of Daniel's ex-wife, the one he claimed he never spoke to anymore? "I miss you too, sweetheart. I know it's been hard hiding our relationship, but Emma is so naive. She actually believes I married her for love." Daniel's cruel laugh made Emma's blood run cold. "Can you imagine? A waitress thinking she could keep a man like me satisfied. The only reason I haven't left her yet is because I suspect her family has money hidden somewhere. Her grandfather left her something, and I need to find out what before I make my move." Emma pressed her back against the hallway wall, tears streaming down her face. The irony was devastating. Daniel was right about her family's money, but he had no idea just how wrong he was about everything else. She wasn't just a waitress who'd inherited a small nest egg. She was the sole heir to Carter Enterprises, an empire worth over $3 billion. She'd been living undercover, working ordinary jobs for the past 5 years because she'd wanted to find someone who would love her for herself, not her fortune, and instead she'd found a man who was using her while planning to return to his ex-wife. "Mason misses his daddy." Lila's voice came through the phone, and Emma realized Daniel had put the call on speaker. "When are you coming to see us again? It's been 2 weeks, and he keeps asking when you're going to take us to that beach house like you promised." "This weekend, baby. I'll tell Emma I have a business conference." She's so trusting, she'll never question it. Daniel's voice was filled with an affection that Emma had never heard directed toward her. "And I've been looking at rings, Lila. Real rings this time, not like that cheap thing I gave Emma to keep her happy. You deserve diamonds, princess." Emma looked down at her simple wedding band. The one Daniel had claimed was perfect for her simple taste. She'd loved it because she thought it represented their genuine, uncomplicated love. Now she realized it was just another symbol of how little she meant to him. "I can't wait to be your real wife again," Lila said, her voice dreamy. "To have our family complete. Mason needs his father, and I need my husband back. I know we made mistakes when we divorced, but this time will be different." "It will be perfect," Daniel agreed. Emma was never supposed to be permanent. She was just practice, a way to learn how to be a better husband for you. And if she does have family money, like I suspect, well, that'll just make the divorce settlement more interesting. The baby kicked hard against Emma's ribs, as if sensing her mother's distress. Emma bit her lip to keep from crying out, both from the physical pain and the emotional devastation. She'd been so careful, so cautious about revealing her true identity. She'd wanted to make sure Daniel loved her completely before she told him the truth about her wealth. She'd planned to surprise him on their first anniversary. Instead, she'd discovered that he'd been planning to leave her all along. "I should go," Daniel said suddenly. "Emma will be home soon from her doctor's appointment. The woman asks so many questions about where I go and what I do. It's exhausting pretending to care about her boring little life." "Be careful, my love," Lila purred. "I know it's hard playing house with her, but soon we'll have everything we want. I've been looking at houses in the hills, somewhere Mason can have a big yard, and we can have the life we always dreamed of. Soon, darling, I promise. I love you both so much." "We love you too, Daddy," came a small voice. Mason, the child Emma hadn't even known, existed. The line went dead, and Emma heard Daniel moving around their bedroom. She quietly made her way back to the front door, her mind racing. She needed to process what she just heard. needed to figure out her next move. But first, she had to pretend everything was normal. Taking a shaky breath, Emma opened and closed the front door loudly, calling out, "Daniel. Honey. I'm home." "Hey, babe." Daniel's voice was warm and loving as he came down the stairs, the same voice that had just been making plans to abandon her. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her forehead, his hand resting on her belly. "How did the appointment go? Is our little one healthy?" Emma looked up at the man she'd thought was the love of her life, seeing him clearly for the first time. His smile was perfect, his blue eyes warm with what she'd believed was love. Now she knew it was all an act. Every kiss, every tender moment, every whispered, "I love you" had been a lie, designed to keep her compliant while he planned his real future with someone else. "Everything's perfect," Emma managed to say, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "The baby is healthy and growing well." "That's wonderful, sweetheart." Daniel's hand moved in gentle circles on her belly, and Emma had to resist the urge to push him away. "I was thinking I might need to go out of town this weekend. There's a conference in San Francisco that could be really good for my career." Another lie. He was going to see Lila and Mason, to play happy family while his pregnant wife sat at home alone. "Of course," Emma said, forcing a smile. "You should go. It sounds like a great opportunity." Daniel beamed at her, probably thrilled that his deception was working so easily. "You're the best wife a man could ask for," Emma so understanding, so supportive. As he hugged her again, Emma closed her eyes and let herself feel the full weight of his betrayal. But underneath the pain, something else was growing. A cold, calculating anger. Daniel had played her for a fool, but he had no idea who he was really dealing with. Emma Carter had spent years learning to be an ordinary woman, but she'd been born a queen. And it was time Daniel learned the difference. That night, as Daniel slept beside her, Emma lay awake planning. She had resources he couldn't imagine, connections he'd never dream of, and a fortune that would make his head spin. He thought he was playing games with a naive waitress, but he was about to discover he'd declared war on an empire. The baby kicked again, and Emma placed her hand protectively over her belly. Her daughter, because she decided not to share that detail with Daniel, would never know a world where men could lie and manipulate without consequences. Tomorrow, Emma Carter would begin her transformation back into who she really was. And Daniel would learn that some games come with a price too high to pay. Chapter 2. The Double Life Exposed. "Daddy, when is the fake mommy going away so we can all live together like a real family?" Emma's blood turned to ice as she watched 4-year-old Mason ask his father this innocent question while they sat together at an upscale beachfront restaurant. She was parked across the street, 7 months pregnant now, watching through binoculars as her husband played happy family with his ex-wife Lila and their son. It had been 3 weeks since she'd overheard that devastating phone call, and Emma had spent every moment since then gathering evidence of Daniel's betrayal. What she'd discovered was worse than anything she could have imagined. Daniel kissed Mason's forehead tenderly. "Soon, buddy. Very soon. Daddy just needs to take care of some business first, and then we'll all be together forever." Lila, a stunning blonde with sapphire eyes, leaned across the table and took Daniel's hand. "I'm scared, Dan. What if she finds out about us? What if she tries to keep you from Mason?" "She won't," Daniel said confidently, his voice carrying clearly through the restaurant's open windows. "Emma is too naive, too trusting. She actually believes our marriage is real. Can you imagine being that pathetic?" Emma's hands tightened on the binoculars. Over the past 3 weeks, she'd hired a private investigator, using her real identity and resources for the first time in years. What he'd uncovered had shattered her world completely. Daniel and Lila had never really divorced. Oh, the papers existed, filed 2 years ago, but they had continued their relationship throughout the entire process. The business trips Daniel took monthly weren't business at all. They were romantic getaways to a beach house he'd rented under a false name, where he played husband and father to his real family. The investigator had photos, Daniel teaching Mason to swim while Lila watched lovingly from the beach. Daniel and Lila kissing passionately in the surf. The 3 of them building sandcastles together, looking like the perfect family, all while Emma sat at home believing her husband was working hard to build their future together. But the most devastating discovery had come just yesterday. Lila was pregnant again, 4 months along, and Daniel was over the moon about it. "I can't wait to meet our new baby," Lila said now, her hand resting on her barely visible bump. "Mason is so excited to be a big brother." "2 children with the woman I actually love," Daniel said, his voice filled with joy. Emma had never heard when he talked about their baby. "It's everything I ever wanted, Lila. Our real family complete at last." Mason bounced in his seat. "Daddy, will the new baby like the beach house? Can we take them swimming like you taught me?" "Of course, son. We'll teach the baby everything together, all 3 of us, just like it should be." Emma felt sick. While she'd been excitedly planning their nursery, buying baby clothes, and dreaming about their future together, Daniel had been living a completely separate life, a life where she didn't exist, where their unborn daughter didn't matter, where everything real and meaningful happened without her. The private investigator had found the beach house rental agreement, signed for another full year with both Daniel and Lila's names on it. He'd found credit card statements showing expensive jewelry purchases that Emma had never received, romantic dinner reservations for 2 that didn't include her, and even a savings account labeled Our Future Home that Daniel was funding with money. He claimed he was saving for Emma's baby. "I have something for you," Daniel said now, pulling out a jewelry box. Emma watched in horror as he presented Lila with a stunning diamond necklace. "For the most beautiful woman in the world." "Oh, Dan, it's gorgeous." Lila threw her arms around him, and they kissed deeply while Mason giggled. "When can we go shopping for the new baby?" Lila asked, touching her belly. "I want everything to be perfect this time." "This weekend," Daniel promised. "I'll tell Emma I have another business conference. We can pick out everything together: cribs, clothes, toys, whatever our baby needs." Emma had heard enough, more than enough. She started her car, her mind crystal clear for the first time in weeks. She'd spent 3 weeks gathering evidence, and now she had everything she needed. Bank statements, photographs, rental agreements, travel records, all proof of Daniel's systematic betrayal of their marriage. But most importantly, she'd spent those 3 weeks reconnecting with who she really was. Emma Carter, heir to a fortune that dwarfed anything Daniel could imagine. She'd made contact with her family's legal team, her financial advisors, and her security personnel. They were all on standby, waiting for her signal. That signal would come tonight. Emma drove home to their modest apartment, modest because she'd wanted to maintain her cover while Daniel complained constantly about their poverty and dreamed of better things. If only he knew that she could buy him a mansion with her pocket change. She spent the afternoon preparing. First, she called her lawyer, William Thompson, the senior partner at the most prestigious firm in the state. "Miss Carter," his voice was warm with genuine affection. "I was wondering when you'd call. Are you ready to reclaim your position?" "More than ready, William. I need you to prepare divorce papers immediately, and I need them to be comprehensive. I understand what grounds adultery, fraud, emotional abandonment. I have evidence of everything." Emma's voice was cold, controlled. "I want him to get nothing. William, not a penny, not a possession, not even supervised visitation rights until paternity is established. Consider it done. Anything else?" "Yes. I want you to file an injunction, preventing him from accessing any accounts he thinks are mine. And I want security footage from every property I own, just in case he tries to retaliate. Miss Carter, if I may, are you certain about this approach? Perhaps we could start with mediation." "William," Emma interrupted, her voice deadly quiet. "This man has been living a double life throughout our entire marriage. He's planning to abandon me and our unborn child for his ex-wife and their children, plural. She's pregnant again. There will be no mediation. There will be justice. Understood. The papers will be ready by morning." Next, Emma called her security team and her private investigator. She wanted Daniel followed every moment until the divorce was finalized. She wanted to know every move he made, every lie he told, every promise he made to Lila that he was breaking to Emma. Finally, she called her financial advisor and instructed him to freeze every account that Daniel had access. Tono, that there were many. Emma had been very careful about keeping her money separate, telling Daniel it was because she wanted to contribute equally to their marriage. As evening fell, Emma sat in their living room waiting, She'd prepared a simple dinner, set the table beautifully, and even lit candles. She wanted this last meal together to be perfect, because tomorrow Daniel would discover that he'd been playing games with the wrong woman. When Daniel came home at 8 o'clock, he was glowing with happiness from his day with his real family. "Hey, beautiful," he said, kissing Emma's cheek. "Something smells amazing." "I made your favorite," Emma said sweetly. "I thought we could have a romantic dinner, just the two of us." "That's perfect, babe. I had such a stressful day at work. It'll be nice to relax with my gorgeous wife." Every word was a lie, and they both knew it. Though only Emma knew that they both knew. Over dinner, Daniel regaled her with fictional stories about his demanding clients and difficult boss, while Emma smiled and nodded, mentally cataloging every deception for her lawyer. When he mentioned his upcoming business trip to San Francisco, Emma's smile remained perfectly steady. "That sounds like a wonderful opportunity," she said. "I hope you have a great time." "You're so understanding, Emma. Some wives would complain about their husbands traveling so much, but you've always been supportive." "I just want you to be happy," Emma said truthfully. And tomorrow she'd make sure he got exactly the kind of happiness he deserved. After dinner, as Daniel settled in to watch television, Emma excused herself to take a bath. In the privacy of her bathroom, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of what was coming. Tomorrow, her life would change completely. The quiet, simple existence she'd built would be over, and she'd return to the world of wealth and power she'd been born into. But tonight, for one last night, she was still just Emma the waitress, married to a man who thought he was clever enough to deceive her. Tomorrow, Daniel would learn that he'd made the biggest mistake of his life, and Emma Carter would make sure it was a lesson he never forgot. Chapter 3. The Confrontation and Revelation. "Pack your bags, Daniel. You're about to lose everything you never knew you had." Emma stood in the doorway of their bedroom at 6 o'clock a plate. M. Fully dressed in an elegant black business suit that Daniel had never seen before. Her hair was pulled back in a sophisticated chignon that made her look like a completely different person. In her hands were divorce papers and a thick manila envelope containing every piece of evidence she'd gathered about his betrayal. Daniel sat up in bed, confused and still half asleep. "Emma, what are you talking about, and why are you dressed like that? Did you get a job interview or something?" "I'm talking about your weekend trips to the beach house with Lila and Mason," Emma said calmly, her voice steady and cold. "I'm talking about the baby she's carrying, your second child with her. I'm talking about the fact that our entire marriage has been a lie." The color drained from Daniel's face. "Emma, I don't know what you think you know, but I know everything." Emma opened the envelope and scattered photographs across the bed. Pictures of Daniel kissing Lila, playing with Mason, shopping for baby furniture, signing the lease on the beach house. "I know about the savings account you opened for your real family. I know about the jewelry you bought her while telling me we couldn't afford nice things. I know about your plans to divorce me after the baby is born, to claim whatever inheritance you think I have." Daniel stared at the photos, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Emma, please, let me explain." "Explain what? That you never loved me? That our marriage was just a convenient arrangement while you figured out how to get back with your ex-wife? That my child and I were just obstacles to overcome?" Emma's voice rose slightly, the only sign of the fury building inside her. "Don't worry, Daniel. I heard you explain everything perfectly clearly when you were on the phone with Lila 3 weeks ago." You were listening?" Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "I was coming home to tell you that our baby is a girl," Emma said, her hand moving protectively to her belly. "Instead, I discovered that my husband has been living a double life since the day we got married." Daniel scrambled out of bed, reaching for her desperately. "Emma, please, you have to understand. Lila and I have history, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you." "Don't." Emma stepped back, her voice like ice. "Don't you dare lie to me anymore. I have recordings, Daniel hours of conversations between you and Lila, where you laugh about how naive and pathetic I am, where you call me practice for being a real husband to her." Daniel's face crumpled. "Emma, I was confused. I was scared. Having a child with you made me realize, it made you realize that you needed to secure whatever money you thought I had before you abandoned me," Emma finished. "Well, congratulations, Daniel. You're about to find out exactly what I'm worth." She pulled out her phone and made a call. "William, it's time." Within minutes, there was a knock at the door. Emma opened it to reveal William Thompson, accompanied by 2 other lawyers and a security guard. Daniel stared in shock as this small army of legal professionals filed into his modest apartment. "Mr. Evans," William said formally, "you're being served with divorce papers. You have 30 days to respond, though I should warn you that we have substantial evidence of adultery and fraud." "Wow-ho are you people?" Daniel stammered. "Emma, how can you afford lawyers like this?" "What's going on?" Emma turned to face him, and for the first time since he'd known her, Daniel saw her as she truly was not a sweet, naive waitress, but a woman of immense power and strength. "My name is Emma Carter," she said quietly. "My grandfather was Edward Carter, founder of Carter Enterprises. My father is Richard Carter, current CEO. I am the sole heir to a fortune worth $3.7 billion. The silence in the room was deafening. Daniel's knees actually buckled, and he had to grab the wall for support. "That's that. Impossible," he whispered. "You're a waitress. You live in this tiny apartment. You drive that old car." "Because I chose to," Emma said simply. "I wanted to find someone who would love me for who I am, not what I have. I thought I'd found that with you. Instead, I found a man who married me, hoping to steal whatever small inheritance I might have, while planning to abandon me for his ex-wife." "Emma, if I had known," Daniel started desperately. "If you had known, you would have been exactly the same man, just greedier." Emma cut him off. "You would have lied to me about loving me. You would have cheated on me with Lila, and you would have planned to use me. The only difference is that you would have stolen billions instead of thousands." One of the lawyers stepped forward. "Mr. Evans, we need to discuss the terms of the divorce, given the evidence of adultery and the prenuptial agreement." "Prenuptial agreement?" Daniel looked confused. "We didn't sign a prenuptial agreement." Emma smiled coldly. "Yes, we did. You signed it the same day you signed our marriage license. You were so excited about finally making it official that you didn't bother reading the papers William's assistant had you sign. That agreement states that in the event of divorce due to infidelity, you receive nothing, no alimony, no property settlement, nothing." "Emma, please." Daniel fell to his knees, literally begging. "I'll leave Lila. I'll never see her again. I'll be the husband you deserve." "The husband I deserve would never have betrayed me in the first place," Emma said, her voice final. "I'm done with you, Daniel, completely done. But the baby, my daughter, you can't keep me from my child. Until paternity is legally established, you have no rights to this child," William interrupted. "And given your pattern of deception and abandonment, any custody arrangement will be limited." Daniel looked around the room wildly, as if searching for some way to salvage the situation. "Emma, I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this. Think about our daughter. She needs her father. Our daughter needs a father who will love and protect her, not one who sees her as an inconvenience to be managed," Emma said firmly. "You have Lila and Mason and your new baby on the way. Focus on being a father to them." "Lila doesn't know about the money," Daniel said desperately. "She thinks I'm leaving you because I realized I still loved her. If she finds out I threw away billions, that's not my problem," Emma said simply. As if summoned by his words, there was another knock at the door. This time it was Lila herself, looking radiant and excited. "Dan, honey, I couldn't wait until tonight to." She stopped short when she saw the crowd of people in the apartment, her eyes taking in the lawyers, the papers scattered everywhere, and Emma's transformed appearance. "What's going on here?" Lila asked slowly. Emma smiled at her, the first genuine smile she'd felt in weeks. "Hello, Lila. I'm Emma Carter. I believe you know my husband, though not for much longer." Lila looked confused. "But Dan said you were just a waitress. That I was what?" Emma asked pleasantly. "Naive? Pathetic? Easy to fool?" "Yes, he told me all about your conversations." Lila's face went pale as she realized the implications. "You heard us. I heard everything. Your plans for your real family, your excitement about Daniel finally leaving the fake mommy, your shopping trips for baby furniture while I sat at home alone and pregnant." Emma's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. I heard Daniel promise you a life of luxury, funded by whatever money he could steal from me after our divorce. Dan? Lila turned to Daniel, who was still kneeling on the floor, looking destroyed. What is she talking about? What money? Emma isn't just a waitress. She's Daniel said brokenly. I'm worth $7 billion. Emma finished helpfully. And your boyfriend just threw it all away for you. Lila stared at Emma in shock, then at Daniel, then back at Emma. Billion? As in billion with a B? That's right. Daniel could have been one of the wealthiest men in the country. Instead, he chose to betray the woman who could have given him everything for a woman who was impressed by beach house rentals and costume jewelry. Dan? Lila's voice was small now, uncertain. Is this true? Daniel couldn't even speak. He just nodded, tears streaming down his face. So, when you were telling me that Emma was just a phase, that you were only staying with her until you could figure out her finances, Lila's voice was getting stronger, angrier. You were actually married to a billionaire, and you threw that away. Lila, please. I love you. You love money. Lila exploded. You told me you were leaving her because you realized we were meant to be together, but really you were just trying to steal from her first. No, Lila, that's not. What about Mason? What about our new baby? How are we supposed to build a life together now? You promised us security, Daniel. You promised us a future. Emma watched this confrontation with satisfaction. Everything was unraveling exactly as it should. I think, Emma said quietly, you should all leave now. Daniel, you have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Lila, you might want to reconsider your relationship with a man who would abandon his pregnant wife or an ex-wife, then abandon his pregnant ex-wife for money. As the lawyers packed up their papers and prepared to leave, Emma felt a sense of profound relief. The woman who had been deceived and betrayed was gone. In her place stood Emma Carter, wealthy, powerful, and ready to reclaim her real life. Emma, Daniel said one last time, his voice broken. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Emma looked at him for a long moment, this man who had wasted months of her life and broken her heart with his lies. No, Daniel, she said finally, you're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. And with that, Emma Carter walked out of her old life forever. Chapter 4. New life. Broken trust. Mommy, why does your belly have a princess in it, but no daddy to protect her? 2-year-old Sophia Carter asked this innocent question while playing with her toys in the sunroom of Emma's family estate, her dark curls catching the afternoon light as she looked up at her mother with curious brown eyes. The question hit Emma like a physical blow, even though she'd been expecting it eventually. Emma set down her tea and knelt beside her daughter, marveling, as she always did, at Sophia's intelligence and beauty. The little girl had inherited Emma's warm brown skin and expressive eyes, but there was a sharpness to her gaze that reminded Emma of her own business acumen. Even at 2, Sophia was remarkably perceptive. Because, sweetheart, Emma said carefully, some daddies aren't good enough to be part of our family. This woman was ready to say yes. Yes, Emma said quietly. I think I will. Sophia threw her arms around Emma's waist. Finally, I was getting tired of waiting for you to stop being silly. 2 hours later, Emma stood in the garden of her cousin's estate, watching Ethan dance with Sophia while the wedding reception continued around them. He was teaching her to waltz, lifting her up so she could reach his shoulders, spinning her around until she giggled with delight. Other guests had stopped their own conversations to watch the sweet scene, and Emma heard more than one person comment on what a wonderful father Ethan was. You know he's going to propose tonight, Richard said, appearing beside Emma with 2 glasses of champagne. So I've been told, Emma replied, accepting the glass. Apparently, it's common knowledge. Are you ready this time? Emma watched Ethan dip Sophia dramatically, making her squeal with laughter. Dad, can I ask you something? When you were investigating Ethan 3 years ago, what convinced you that he was genuine? Richard followed her gaze to Ethan and Sophia. It wasn't anything in his background check, though that was all exemplary. It was something much simpler. What? I watched him with Sophia during that first birthday party after you'd reconciled. There was a moment When Sophia spilled grape juice all over his white shirt. You remember that expensive silk one? Emma remembered. She'd been mortified, rushing to clean up the mess and apologize. Ethan didn't even acknowledge the stain, Richard continued. He just kept playing with Sophia like nothing had happened. Later, when you were busy with other guests, I saw him take off the shirt and throw it away rather than ask your staff to try to clean it. He didn't want to create extra work for anyone or draw attention to Sophia's accident. That's when you knew. That's when I knew he loved her for herself, not as a way to get to you. Any man can pretend to care about a woman's child for a few months. But Ethan has been putting Sophia's emotional well-being before his own comfort for 3 years now. As if summoned by their conversation, Ethan approached with Sophia in his arms, both of them slightly breathless from dancing. "Mommy, did you see how high Daddy spun me?" Sophia asked excitedly. "I saw, sweetheart. You looked like you were flying." "Emma," Ethan said, his voice slightly nervous, "would you like to take a walk? The gardens here are beautiful in the moonlight." Sophia giggled and whispered loudly, "This is when he's going to ask you, Mommy." "Sophia," Ethan said with mock seriousness, "you're supposed to keep secrets secret." "Sorry, Daddy, but I'm really excited." Ethan set Sophia down, and she scampered off to find her grandfather, leaving Emma and Ethan alone for the first time all evening. "She called you Daddy again," Emma observed as they walked toward the rose garden. "She's been doing that more often lately. I hope that's okay." "It's more than okay, Ethan. You've been her father in every way that matters since she was 3 years old." They reached a secluded part of the garden, lit by strings of fairy lights and fragrant with blooming roses. Ethan stopped walking and turned to face Emma, his expression serious but hopeful. "Emma, do you remember what you said to me a year ago? You asked me to wait until you were sure, until you could trust your heart completely." "I remember. Have you learned to trust your heart?" Emma looked at this man who had proven himself over and over again for 3 years, who had never once lost patience with her fears, never pressured her to move faster than she was comfortable with, never made her feel broken or damaged for needing time to heal. "My heart has been trying to tell me something for months now," Emma said softly. "But I've been too stubborn to listen." "What has it been trying to tell you?" "That I've been ready to marry you for almost a year. That I've been looking for excuses to wait, because being scared felt safer than being vulnerable. That I've been punishing both of us for Daniel's sins." Ethan stepped closer, his hands gentle on her face. "And what is your heart telling you now?" "That I love you completely. That I trust you with everything I have. That I want to spend the rest of my life building something beautiful with you and Sophia." "Emma." "That I'm ready to say yes," Emma finished, tears starting to fall. "I'm ready to be your wife. Ready to make you Sophia's legal father. Ready to stop being afraid of happiness." Ethan stared at her for a moment, as if he couldn't quite believe what he was hearing. Then he dropped to one knee, pulling out that ring box Sophia had spotted earlier. "Emma Carter," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I have loved you for 4 years. I have waited for you, hoped for you, dreamed of this moment for so long that I'm almost afraid it's not real." "It's real," Emma whispered. "Will you marry me? Will you let me love you and Sophia for the rest of my life? Will you trust me with your heart, your future, your happiness?" Emma looked down at this incredible man who had proven his love through years of patience and devotion, who had earned the right to ask this question through consistent, unwavering commitment. "Yes," she said, the word coming out as a sob. "Yes, Ethan, I'll marry you." The ring slipped onto her finger perfectly, a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds that caught the fairy lights like stars. It was beautiful, unique, completely perfect for her. "Emma Bennett," Ethan said, standing up and kissing her deeply. "I love the sound of that. Daddy, Mommy, did she say yes?" They broke apart to find Sophia running toward them, followed by what appeared to be half the wedding reception. Apparently, their private moment had been witnessed by most of the guests. "She said yes," Ethan called out, sweeping Sophia up in his arms while keeping his other arm around Emma. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, and suddenly Emma was surrounded by family and friends, offering congratulations and admiring her ring. But through it all, she was aware only of Ethan's arm around her waist and Sophia's delighted laughter. "When can we have the wedding?" Sophia asked as the excitement died down. "Can I pick my dress?" Can I be the flower girl again? You can be whatever you want to be, princess, Ethan said, kissing the top of her head. It's going to be your family's wedding, too. Later that night, after Sophia had fallen asleep between them on the couch while they planned their future, Emma realized that this was what happiness felt like, not the desperate, uncertain emotion she'd mistaken for love with Daniel, but this steady, peaceful certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Ethan, she said softly, not wanting to wake. Sophia, thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for being worth waiting for, he replied, kissing her temple. Thank you for letting me love you both. As Emma drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the two people she loved most in the world, she realized that sometimes the best things in life were worth waiting for, and sometimes, if you were very lucky, they waited for you, too. Chapter 9. The Wedding and Daniel's Desperation. Please, Emma, don't do this to me. I'm begging you to remember who we used to be before you destroy my last chance at happiness. Daniel's desperate plea echoed across the manicured grounds of the Carter estate as he stood in handcuffs between two security guards, having somehow managed to escape from prison transport just hours before Emma's wedding to Ethan. His prison uniform was dirty and torn, his face gaunt from 3 years behind bars, and his eyes held the wild desperation of a man who had finally lost everything. Emma stood 50 feet away in her wedding dress, a stunning creation of ivory silk and French lace that made her look like a queen, flanked by Ethan in his black tuxedo and Sophia in her flower girl dress. The wedding guests, including some of the most powerful people in the country, watched in stunned silence as this dramatic confrontation unfolded. Who we used to be. Emma's voice was ice cold as she stepped forward, Ethan immediately moving to stay beside her. You mean when you were lying to me every day of our marriage? When you were planning to abandon me and our unborn child for your ex-wife? When you were stealing from me while pretending to love me? I made mistakes, Daniel shouted, struggling against the guards holding him. But I've paid for them 3 years in prison, Emma. 3 years of thinking about what I lost, what I threw away. What you threw away, Emma repeated, her voice deadly quiet. Was the chance to know an incredible little girl who calls another man daddy because you were too selfish and stupid to appreciate what you had. Daniel's gaze fell on Sophia, who was pressed close to Ethan's side, looking scared but protected. Sophia, he said, his voice breaking, sweetheart, I'm your real daddy. I know you don't remember me, but I love you. I've always loved you. No, Sophia said firmly, her small voice carrying clearly across the lawn. Ethan is my daddy. He reads me stories and helps with my homework and makes Mommy laugh. You're just the man who made Mommy cry. The words hit Daniel like physical blows. Emma, please. You've poisoned her against me. I've never spoken about you to Sophia, except to answer her direct questions, Emma said firmly. Everything she knows about you, she learned from your own actions. Detective Sullivan approached the group, having arrived with the escaped prisoner alert. Mrs. Bennett, he said, addressing Emma by her married name. The ceremony had been completed just before Daniel's dramatic arrival. We have the situation under control. Evans was captured about a mile from here. Apparently, he overpowered a guard during a routine medical transport. How did he know about the wedding? Ethan asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Prison communications are monitored, but not perfectly, the detective admitted. We believe he may have seen coverage in the newspaper's society section. Emma realized with a chill that her wedding had been featured prominently in the press. Photos of her dress, shopping with Sophia, interviews about the Carter family fortune, speculation about Ethan's business empire. Daniel would have seen it all and realized that Emma was not only moving on completely but marrying a man who could give her everything Daniel never could. Emma, Daniel tried again, his voice desperate now. I know I hurt you, but we have a child together. We have history. You can't just erase that and pretend this man is Sophia's father. He is Sophia's father, Emma said simply. In every way that matters. He's the one who taught her to ride a bike, who stayed up all night when she had the flu, who helped her learn to read. Where were you for any of that, Daniel? I was in prison because of you, Daniel exploded. You had me arrested for trying to see my own daughter. You kidnapped a 5-year-old child. Ethan stepped forward, his voice controlled but lethal. You terrified her, traumatized her, and then tried to use her as a weapon against her mother. That's not love. That's selfishness. And who are you? Daniel turned his fury on Ethan. Some rich boy who thinks he can buy a family? You don't know Emma like I do. You don't know that she's not who she pretends to be. I know exactly who Emma is, Ethan said calmly. She's the strongest woman I've ever met. She's a brilliant businesswoman, a devoted mother, and the love of my life. She's also someone who deserves better than a man who would abandon her while she was pregnant and then spend years terrorizing her. You think you're so perfect? Daniel snarled. What happens when you get tired of playing house? What happens when you want your freedom back? That will never happen, Ethan said with absolute certainty. Because unlike you, I know the difference between a convenience and a gift. Emma and Sophia aren't obligations I have to endure. They're the best things that ever happened to me. Sophia is my daughter, Daniel shouted, making one last desperate lunge toward the little girl before the guards restrained him completely. Sophia didn't cower or cry. Instead, she stepped forward and looked at Daniel with the fearless confidence of a child who had never doubted she was loved and protected. My last name will be Bennett soon, she said clearly. Ethan is going to adopt me, and we're a real family. You can't have me because I don't want you. You're scary, and you make people sad. The simple honesty of Sophia's words seemed to break something inside Daniel. His shoulders sagged, and for the first time since he'd appeared, he looked truly defeated. I've lost everything, he whispered, staring at Emma. My family, my life, my daughter. You were supposed to be mine, Emma. We were supposed to build a life together. We tried to build a life together, Emma said, her voice gentler now but still firm. And you chose to tear it down with lies and betrayal. That wasn't my choice, Daniel. That was yours. I would have loved you if I'd known, Daniel said desperately. If I'd known about the money, about who you really were. That's exactly the problem, Emma interrupted. You would have loved my money, not me. Ethan fell in love with Emma the waitress before he ever knew about Carter Enterprises. He loved me when I was broken and scared and didn't trust anyone. He loved Sophia when she was just a little girl who needed a father, not an heir he could use for connections. Mrs. Bennett, Detective Sullivan said gently, we need to transport Evans back to custody. He'll face additional charges for the escape and for violating the restraining order. How much time will he get? Ethan asked. Given his record and the violence of the escape, probably another 5 to 7 years, the detective replied. Daniel stared at Emma one last time. I hope you'll be happy, he said. And for the first time in 6 years, he sounded like he might actually mean it. I hope he gives you everything I was too stupid to appreciate. He already has, Emma said quietly. As the police led Daniel away, the wedding guests slowly began to resume their celebration. The incident had been dramatic but brief, and most people seemed eager to return to the festivities. Are you okay? Ethan asked Emma quietly, his arm around her waist. I'm perfect, Emma said, and realized she meant it completely. For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Mommy, Sophia tugged on Emma's dress. Is the scary man going to come back? No, sweetheart. Emma knelt down to Sophia's level. He's going away for a very long time, and he won't be able to bother us anymore. Good, Sophia said firmly, because this is our happy day, and he was trying to make it sad. You're absolutely right, Ethan said, picking Sophia up and spinning her around. This is our happy day. And nothing is going to change that. As the afternoon turned to evening, Emma found herself surrounded by love and joy. Sophia charmed all the guests with her dancing and her speeches about her new daddy. Ethan was the perfect husband, and Emma felt a peace she'd never experienced before. During their first dance, Ethan pulled Emma close and whispered in her ear, Do you regret waiting so long to say yes? No, Emma said honestly. I needed those years to heal, to learn to trust you completely, and you needed them to prove that your love was real. We're both better people now than we were 4 years ago. And Sophia, Emma looked over at their daughter, who was dancing with her grandfather Richard while wearing Ethan's suit jacket like a cape. Sophia has never known anything but love and security, Emma said. Even when I was scared and broken, she was surrounded by people who adored her. Daniel was never her father. He was just the man who helped create her. And now, Ethan said. She has a real father, one who chose her, fought for her, and loves her unconditionally. As they swayed together under the stars, surrounded by family and friends, Emma realized that sometimes the best love stories weren't about passion and drama. Sometimes they were about patience and healing, about finding someone who would wait for you to become ready to be loved. Mrs. Bennet, Ethan said softly. I love the sound of that, Emma replied. Get used to it, Ethan smiled. Because you're stuck with me forever now. Promise, Emma asked. Promise, Ethan said, sealing it with a kiss that tasted like forever. In the distance, Sophia's laughter rang out across the garden as she danced with her new family, and Emma knew that this was what happily ever after really looked like. Not perfect, not without challenges, but built on a foundation of real love, trust, and commitment. Daniel had finally gotten what he deserved, the knowledge that he had thrown away the greatest gift of his life, and that it had found its way to someone who would treasure it properly. And Emma Bennet had gotten what she deserved, a love worth waiting for. Chapter 10. Complete Victory. Daddy, why is that man on television crying about losing his family when he never really had one? 8-year-old Sophia Bennet asked this question while sitting in Ethan's lap, watching a news report about Daniel's latest parole hearing denial. It had been 2 years since Emma's wedding to Ethan, and Sophia was now a confident second grader who barely remembered a time when Ethan wasn't her father. On the screen, Daniel was sobbing, claiming he'd been destroyed by a vindictive ex-wife and begging for a chance to reconnect with his daughter before it was too late. Emma Bennet, now 2 years married to Ethan and expecting twins, muted the television with disgust. The sight of Daniel playing victim for the cameras filled her with cold satisfaction rather than anger. Let him cry for the world to see. Everyone who mattered knew the truth. Because some people never learn to take responsibility for their choices, sweetheart, Emma said, adjusting her position on the sofa as one of the twins kicked enthusiastically. That man made decisions that hurt people, and now he's facing the consequences. But he keeps saying I'm his daughter, Sophia said, her face scrunched with confusion. Why does he think that when I already have a daddy? Ethan kissed the top of Sophia's head. Because he helped create you, princess. But that doesn't make him your father. Being a father means taking care of someone you love every single day, not just sharing DNA. Sophia nodded solemnly. At 8 years old, she was remarkably wise about family dynamics, probably because she'd been surrounded by genuine love and security her entire conscious life. She had no memory of Daniel beyond that terrifying day when she was 5. Well, I'm glad he's not my daddy, Sophia said firmly. Real daddies don't make their children's mommies cry. Emma and Ethan exchanged a look over Sophia's head. Their daughter had inherited Emma's intelligence and Ethan's emotional wisdom, creating a formidable combination. She excelled in school, spoke 3 languages, and had already shown an aptitude for business that suggested she might one day run Carter Enterprises. Sophia, why don't you go practice piano while Mommy and I talk? Ethan suggested. Can I play the new song for the babies? Sophia asked, patting Emma's belly gently. Of course, sweetheart. I think they'd love to hear it. After Sophia skipped out of the room, Ethan turned to Emma with concern. How are you feeling about the parole hearing coverage? Honestly, vindicated, Emma said without hesitation. Look at him, Ethan. 5 years in prison, and he still doesn't understand what he did wrong. He's still painting himself as the victim. The parole board saw right through it, Ethan reminded her. Denied again unanimous decision. He'll be eligible again in 3 years. Emma finished. But given his record, he'll never get out early. And by the time he serves his full sentence, Sophia will be 18 and able to make her own decisions about contact. Ethan moved closer to Emma on the sofa, his hand resting on her belly where their twins were active. Speaking of Sophia's decisions, she asked me something yesterday that I wanted to discuss with you. What kind of something? She wants to legally change her last name. Emma looked surprised. But she's already Sophia Bennet. We changed it when you adopted her legally after our marriage. No, she wants to drop Evans from her birth certificate entirely. She asked if there was a way to make Ethan Bennet her biological father on paper. Emma felt tears spring to her eyes. She said that? She said she doesn't want any connection to Daniel left in her official records. She wants her birth certificate to reflect the truth that I'm her real father in every way that matters. What did you tell her? I told her that we'd look into it, but that no matter what any paper says, she's my daughter, and I'm her father forever. Emma reached for Ethan's hand, marveling, as she always did, at this man who had made their broken family whole. She's right, you know. You are her biological father in every way that matters. You've been there for every milestone, every achievement, every scraped knee and bad dream. And I always will be. The peaceful moment was interrupted by Sophia's piano playing Floating In from the music room. Beautiful melody she'd composed herself and dedicated to her baby siblings. The music was complex and emotional, far beyond what most 8-year-olds could create. She's remarkable, Ethan said softly. She's ours, Emma replied, the possessive pride in her voice unmistakable. Over the past 2 years, their life had been everything Emma had never dared dream of. Ethan had proven to be not just a wonderful husband, but an extraordinary father to Sophia. He'd attended every school event, coached her soccer team, helped with homework, and created traditions that would last a lifetime. The business merger of Carter Enterprises and Bennett International had been seamless, creating an empire that dominated multiple industries. Emma ran the day-to-day operations while Ethan focused on international expansion, and their professional partnership was as strong as their personal one. Emma, Ethan said suddenly, there's something else I need to tell you about Daniel. What now? My lawyers received some interesting information yesterday. Apparently, Daniel's ex-wife Lila wants to meet with us. Emma Stefana. Lila? Why? She's getting remarried to a very wealthy businessman, and she wants to ensure that Daniel has no legal claim to her children. She's offering to testify about his abandonment and manipulation, if it will help strengthen our case for terminating his parental rights to Sophia. After all these years, she wants to help us? Apparently, she's realized what kind of man Daniel really is. Her new fiancé had him investigated and found some disturbing information about Daniel's behavior since his incarceration. What kind of information? Letters to other inmates' former partners, trying to manipulate them into providing money or assistance. He's been using the same tactics he used on you, finding vulnerable people and exploiting their emotions. Emma shook her head in disgust, but not surprise. Once a predator, always a predator. Lila wants to make sure he can never hurt another family the way he hurt hers and ours. Set up the meeting, Emma said decisively. If Lila's testimony can help us cut Daniel out of Sophia's life permanently, I want to hear what she has to say. That evening, as Emma tucked Sophia into bed, her daughter looked up at her with serious eyes. Mommy, when the babies come, will they have the same last name as me? Of course, sweetheart. You're all Bennetts. Good. I want us all to match. Sophia paused thoughtfully. And Mommy, when I grow up and have my own family, I want to be like you and Daddy. What do you mean? I want to choose someone who loves me like Daddy loves you, someone who makes me laugh and keeps me safe and never lies to me. Emma felt her heart overflow. That's exactly what you deserve. Sophia Somioni, who sees how incredible you are and never takes it for granted. Like how Daddy saw how incredible you are. Yes, sweetheart. Exactly like that. Later that night, as Emma and Ethan lay in bed, feeling the twins move and listening to Sophia's soft breathing through the baby monitor they still kept in her room at her request, she wanted to make sure she could hear if the babies needed anything. Emma reflected on how completely her life had transformed. Ethan, she said softly, do you ever wonder what our lives would have been like if Daniel had been a different kind of man? If he'd actually loved me and Sophia? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Honestly, no. Because if Daniel had been different, you might never have needed to build the walls that protected you until you were ready to trust again. You might have settled for ordinary love instead of waiting for extraordinary love. You think what we have is extraordinary. Emma, what we have survived everything Daniel threw at us, overcame every obstacle, and grew stronger with every challenge. We didn't just fall in love. We chose each other every single day for years before we got married. That's not ordinary. That's once in a lifetime. Emma turned to face her husband in the darkness. I love you, Ethan Bennett. Thank you for waiting for me to be ready to love you back. Thank you for being worth waiting for, Ethan replied, kissing her softly. 6 months later, Emma gave birth to healthy twins, a boy they named Richard after Emma's father, and a girl they named Clara after Ethan's grandmother. Sophia was completely enchanted with her baby siblings, taking her role as big sister very seriously. And 3 months after that, Daniel's parental rights to Sophia were officially terminated based on abandonment, endangerment, and testimony from multiple witnesses about his pattern of manipulation and abuse. Sophia Bennett was legally and officially only Ethan's daughter. On the day the court order was finalized, Emma sat in her garden, watching Ethan teach Sophia to change baby Richard's diaper, while little Clara slept peacefully in her carrier. The sight filled her with such complete contentment that she had to remind herself it was real. This was her life now, this chaos of laughter and love, of business meetings and bedtime stories, of a man who had proven his devotion through years of patience, and a daughter who had never known anything but security and adoration. Daniel had gotten exactly what he deserved, a lifetime of regret over losing the greatest gift he'd ever been offered. And Emma Bennett had gotten exactly what she deserved, a love story worth waiting for, a family built on truth and trust, and the certainty that some fairy tales really do come true, but only for people brave enough to believe they deserve them. As Sophia's laughter echoed across the garden and Ethan smiled at her with eyes full of love, Emma knew that she had finally, completely, and utterly triumphed.